If you've ever found yourself typing any of these into Google, why do my goals fall apart after a few months? How often should I reset business goals? Quarterly reset for founders. How to fix a business that feels stuck. This episode is for you. Because the problem isn't that you're inconsistent. It's that nothing in your business truly resets. It's that nothing in your business ever truly resets. Welcome back to Tech Talks with Grace, the show where we turn operational chaos into clarity one system at a time. Today, we're opening Pillar 3, Quarterly Rhythm and Progress Tracking. And we're starting with the foundation, resetting your progress each quarter. Not a fresh start fantasy, not a motivational reboot, a systems level reset. Because what founders are really asking Google isn't, how do I work harder? It's, why does my business feel heavier even though I'm doing more? Quarterly resets exist to answer that question honestly. Let's talk about why quarters matter, because this isn't arbitrary. People constantly search monthly versus quarterly planning for business, annual planning doesn't work for startups, and how often should founders review systems? Here's why quarters win. A month is too short, you're still reacting. A year is too long, you've already compounded your mistakes. A quarter is the smallest unit of time that allows for patterns to show up, systems to stabilize, and changes to compound. Quarterly rhythm is where strategy meets reality. So if your business doesn't have a quarterly reset, what actually happens is you keep adding, you rarely subtract, and complexity quietly becomes permanent. Let's clear this up, because this is where most people get it wrong. A quarterly reset is not starting over. It is not rewriting your entire plan. It is not switching tools. And it is not declaring this quarter will be different. That's why people Google, why do goal resets never stick? Why does planning feel pointless? A reset is a controlled pause, a recalibration, and a chance to realign your systems with reality. Think of it like maintenance, not transformation. You don't reset because things are broken, you reset so they don't break. Most businesses don't implode, they drift. And drift is what founders describe when they Google questions like, or statements, business feels messy, but nothing is wrong. Why does systems stop working over time? And why does scaling feel chaotic? Here's what drift looks like. Automations technically work, but no one trusts them. Standard operating procedures, your SOPs, they exist, but everyone still has their own way. Dashboards are built, but nobody looks at them. Nobody trusts them. Tools start to pile up one on top of the other, and clarity is gone. It has now disappeared. Nothing is urgent. Everything is heavier. Quarterly resets are how you interrupt drift before it becomes chaos. So how does this reset button actually work? Well, a real quarterly reset has 3 phases. And each phase has specific micro actions. You know, I love my micro actions. So where do we start? Phase 1. You pause without fixing anything. This is the phase that all founders skip and then really regret it later. People Google things like how to review last quarter properly, how to reflect without overthinking. So what micro actions do you take in phase 1? You're going to freeze changes for 48 hours. I'm going to give you 3 of these. First one, freeze those changes for 48 hours. No new tools, no new automations, no new initiatives. The second micro action, answer these 3 questions in writing. Write it down. Where did work feel manual again? What required the most follow-up? And what only worked because someone babysat it? Those are 3 very simple questions you're going to ask yourself. Number 3, you're going to highlight friction, not failures. Again, I'm going to repeat that. Highlight friction, not failures. You're not diagnosing people, you're diagnosing systems. This phase creates clarity without panic. Phase 2, you're going to re-anchor the quarter. This is when you see, or when I see founders Googling, or you might be Googling, what should I focus on next quarter? And how many priorities is too many? The answer is always one category, not a theme, not a vision, one operational category. I heard the other day, about a week ago, that vision statements are dead. Well, yeah, they are, because people are just creating statements that don't align with their actual business process, possibly don't align with what they're trying to accomplish. And so, a vision statement isn't something you can act on per se. You need a micro action tied to the category that is least moving your business forward, and that is what you're going to take on. You're re anchoring the quarter. So you're taking things like this one category and you're going to create those micro actions around the one category you're having trouble with in the business. You're not diagnosing people, you're diagnosing your system. Now, you might be asking yourself, what are some examples, Grace? I usually see I have a problem with this person or that person. It's not really the person, it's your system that's failing you. So, what's a good example? I'll give you a few. Intake and lead flow. You might think that the person on the phone, your intake person, is not asking the right questions, they don't care enough. It's not about the person, it's about the systems. So, your intake and lead flow is a great example for a potential operational category improvement that you can take single micro actions every day and every quarter reset if it's not getting you to the goals that you've set for the first of that quarter. Another one is data integrity. You know how much I love talking about data integrity. Unfortunately, it is one of those things that seems very pie in the sky type of high level concept. Data integrity, what is that? Well, data integrity, as I've said before, is taking micro actions to make sure your data is clean. Things like making a field required if possible, changing free text fields to drop downs, things of that nature that you can actually take action on. And every quarter, you're going to see during your quarterly reset, you're going to see what actions actually move the needle for you. And that's what this is for. A quarterly reset is not to reinvent the wheel, it's to check and double check and confirm and then move forward with a plan of action. Delivery consistency. That's another example for a good quarterly reset. It's within that category, you can focus on that one category of delivery consistency, and that quarter is what you're going to focus on. Automation reliability. If you have good data, you feel secure in your automations for the most part. And I say for the most part because maybe you haven't written down all the workflows. Maybe somebody, one person or two people, does something different because they don't understand the tool or they don't know how the automation really works. So another part is team ownership. You can use a quarter to assign ownership. Ownership comes with accountability. Accountability comes with actual ownership of a process, a system, a task, something that this person is assigned and you can rely on them. And you'll come to find that when you give a person accountability, you're not giving them accountability, you're giving them ownership of something. And when someone has ownership of a task, a tool, a skill, a set of processes, you're going to be surprised at how they stand up. You will take notice. And that's part of the quarterly reset. It's to show and also acknowledge the accomplishments that have been done by your team to get you to the point that you're at. So team ownership, you can pick that quarter that you're going to focus on team ownership. So what are some micro actions for this phase? Write this sentence down. If this category improved by 20%, the business would feel lighter. Cross out everything else. Not forever, just this quarter. The third thing you're going to do in phase 2, you're going to define what better means. What is success? What is better? Does it mean fewer handoffs? Meaning this person then has to send it to that person by email, by Teams, however. Does it mean fewer errors? Less problems because now there's a drop down? Does it mean less manual work because now this system integrates with that system and it's been checked and triple checked and everything works beautifully? Remember, focus is not a discipline. It's done by design. So moving on to phase 3, reset the constraints. This is also one of the most missed phases and the most important. People Google things like, why do plans fail even when goals are clear? It's because the goals aren't failing, the constraints do. I'm going to give you some micro actions for phase 3. Again, 3 micro actions. 1, reset capacity assumptions. What does that mean? Well, what can you realistically maintain on a weekly basis? That's why I keep going back to the micro actions daily. What broke because it was overbuilt? Remember, you can over-engineer something. You need something, meaning the tools or your systems and the automations need to do exactly what you needed to do. No more, no less. The second micro action for phase 3, remove one thing. Okay, this is part of resetting your constraints. You're removing one report, one automation, one meeting, or one manual check. Remember, meetings are great for checking things, progress, but they need to have a purpose. If you go into a meeting without an agenda, that meeting is useless. If you go into a meeting without purpose, that meeting is useless. So remove one thing during this quarterly reset. You're resetting your constraints and you're going to remove one thing, one report, automation, meeting, or manual check. Step 3 or micro action 3, document what will not improve this quarter. So you might have heard before, when you're in a relationship or you're dating someone or you're with somebody and you break up with that person, you can gain just as much of what you didn't want in that relationship versus what you did. That is what this is about. You're going to also document what you're not going to improve this quarter. You know that you cannot get to all of it. So writing down what you're not going to do is just as important as what you're going to do. This is going to prevent silent scope creep and it protects your momentum. The resets will reduce pressure by narrowing the field and making a plan of action in writing. I go back to in writing because once you put something to paper, you've committed to it. All right, so now we're going to lock it in with my actionable takeaways. Step 1, you're going to reset at the start of each quarter. Put it on your calendar. Treat it as infrastructure. If it's optional, it's not going to happen. Step 2, review the new quarter start date. Ask what's carrying over, what assumptions are no longer true, what are we intentionally not doing. This question alone creates strategic maturity. In step 3, choose one category to focus on. Not 5, not everything that's broken. One category, one quarter, clear relief. So you're asking yourself at this point, what comes next? Here's the shift that I want you to take with you. Progress doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from resetting intelligently. So quarterly resets give you perspective without panic, momentum without burnout, and improvement without chaos. And once you've reset, the next question founders Google is, how do I know this is actually working? And that's exactly what we're covering next. In episode 10, we'll talk about tracking progress with a history log, not dashboards for vanity, but visibility that actually supports decision making. I'm Grace, and this is Tech Talks with Grace.